Phil Mackey, Tom Pelissero here at the Metrodome following a Vikings 27-24 victory over the Cardinals, a season-saving victory, and really it went from Vikings down 14, 6 minutes to go, crowd chanting "Fire Childress" to all of a sudden this offensive and defensive barrage that came out of absolutely nowhere.
This was the 2009 Vikings. The 2010 Vikings, time and again, have lost this exact game. The same sort of a scenario where they're in the entire time, but just fundamental breakdowns. Today was special teams. They fumble one, they get returned for a touchdown. They give up a long kickoff return touchdown. They get down to the shadow of the goal line. Bryant McKinney blows a block. Favre ends up throwing an interception because of it. They end up settling for 3 and another trip down there. They have an incompletion on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. It's just this time and again how many yards they racked up. You look at the production, you compare the numbers, and you go, this is a game they should win. They almost didn't, and it took the sort of rally we have not seen this year, but the sort of rally that so many times we did see from this team last year. They found a way to win, and absolutely this changes a lot of things at this point. I don't want to say it changes everything because they come out next week and lay an egg in Chicago. Who cares? But that's a sinking Chicago team. I have to think that this game could at least send them in the right direction because it proved to them that they are capable of this.
Brett Favre, a career-high 446 passing yards. That surpasses his previous career high of 402.
It's in 1993.
It's unbelievable.
It's 17 years ago. You can go back and find a game where we had this much production.
And after the game, Ziggy Will, standing in the entrance of the locker room, shook every player's hand, every coach's hand. It was sort of a surreal scene. He said "great heart" to everybody, and it looked like he was tearing up. Walked into the locker room, players were yelling, talking about a new beginning, and Ziggy did embrace Brad Childress, shook his hand, said "great heart." Now, of course, like you said, it's good now for Brad Childress, but if they go out and lay an egg against Chicago, he's right back on the hot seat and might even lose his job based on some of the reports we're hearing.
But this is the difference right now is they came out and they played an effort game today. You can point to all the execution errors and you can say that they came very close to losing this game, but changing coaches is not going to make Hussein Abdullah not overrun a tackle and give up a touchdown. Putting Frazier as the head coach is not going to prevent Harvin from fumbling. You can say that, yeah, they could be coached better in some of these fundamental things, but it's those sorts of breakdowns that happen over and over that prove costly in a game. What you want to see is, are guys still playing? Are they going to quit on the coach? There's no question they have not quit on Brad Childress, but at the same time you read into what those guys were saying in the locker room, everyone was saying, we won for us. This was a game for you got to play for your teammates. Brett Favre said at the podium that he had to sit back and go, do I agree with what the coaches and the coordinators are telling me? No. Do I agree with all the play calls? No. But am I willing to do what it takes? Today he did, and when the ball was put in his hands and he had to make some of those calls at the line in the 2-minute, that was vintage Brett Favre. That was old school Brett Favre leading a team down on a winning drive.
And of course, Brad Childress should be held accountable. All head coaches are responsible ultimately for what happens and for what your win-loss record is. But Brett Favre has turned the ball over 17 times this season. The pass rush, 6 sacks heading into this game, a year after they led the NFL with 48 sacks last season. So it's not necessarily Brad Childress' fault that Jared Allen had 1 sack heading into today, that Brett Favre had 11 interceptions. It's a cohesive effort. Everybody needs to be held accountable. And at the end of this game, it all gelled together, like you said, like they played last year.
Yeah, and is there animosity toward Brad Childress in that locker room? Yeah, there's some. There's people who think he's a buffoon in the locker room. That's part of the bit right now, and I'm not saying that all those problems are solved, but you've got a very talented group of guys in that locker room who, yeah, when it came down to the stretch run there, Leslie Frazier finally dials up some blitz patterns, which I think everybody's been waiting for. It's, he actually does have a 7-man empty pressure that he can bring when they need it most, and it got home. The final 2 plays by Arizona in the game, both sacks. That's just a huge difference. That's stuff that wasn't happening before, but you see all the coaches having to be accountable. You see Frazier having to make the adjustments that he'd been reluctant to do because he is so tied into that rigid cover 2 scheme. You see guys doing some things that they're not used to doing, and you saw the better team be able to come and put together an unbelievable final stretch. I'll take the blame for tweeting with 6 minutes and 12 seconds or whatever it was that 4th down pass failed complete, season over. Because at that point, I thought it was.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one.
There was no reason to believe the 2010 Vikings, with everything that's gone wrong and how many times they've been in those situations, would come back and put together one of the best rallies you'll see in the league this entire season. They did it, and they at least bought themselves another week. Not everything's solved. Team still has issues. They still make a lot of mistakes. There are still going to be questions about Brad Childress' job. He's safe for a week, and the Vikings are in a position now with 2 division games coming up. They can put themselves right back in the race, crazy as that sounds.
A stay of execution for the Vikings season and possibly a stay of execution for the head coach. I'm Phil, and he's Tom.
You got
Or
that straight?
Or something like that.
Right.
And we'll catch you next time.